Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, thank you very much for having me here this morning with all of you. It's truly an honor to be here this morning. Actually, this invitation came about a year and a half ago. And when I first received this invitation, I asked the head minister at my temple at that time, who was Reverend Noriaki Ito, you may know him. He's been around for a long time. And then I asked him if it's okay for me to accept this offer. And he said, yeah, should be fine, but I'm not sure if I'm still gonna be your boss, around them. And then at that time, I thought that was a funny comment that he made. But it turned out to be true. And I have a new boss now, and he retired last September. So he was right, and a lot has changed over a year and a half. But here we are today, finally. Before I begin today's Dharma message, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. As Reverend Dr. Wondra just mentioned in the introduction, I was born and raised in Japan. But ever since I was young, I had a strong interest in learning English and studying abroad. During high school, I participated in a one-year exchange program and lived in Lodi. Does anybody know where Lodi is? There's a song called Stuck in Lodi. It's a really tiny town in Northern California. But I had no choice. I had an agent back then to do the exchange program, and I could have been going anywhere. Some of my friends went to Arkansas and any other state. So I was just lucky enough to be in California. It's a small town in Lodi, and there's actually a Nishi Honganji temple in that town. And I used to pass it by all the time. But my host family was a Christian family. So instead of attending services at the temple, Buddhist temple there, I went to church with them often, to Christian church instead. Looking back, it was a wonderful opportunity because it allowed me to experience a different religious tradition while also reflecting more deeply on my own. After my exchange year, I returned to Japan to finish high school. And the all-girls high school that I went was affiliated with Nishi Honganji. Then after graduating, I moved back to California to attending Orange County. So I used to live in Irvine for about 3 years, and I went to Saddleback College in Mission Viejo, if you know where that is. So Orange County became my home for several years. And even today, I still tell people that I'd love to move back to Orange County someday. But then I remember the traffics on the 5 and on 405, and maybe it's better to just visit once in a while for now. And for the past 3 years, I have been serving as a minister at Higashi Honganji in Lodo, Tokyo. It has been a truly meaningful experience, and today I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a few thoughts about Obon with all of you. Obon has part of my life for as long as I can remember, as I have grown up in a Buddhist temple. However, my understanding of Obon has changed a lot ever since. When I was younger, I saw Obon mainly as a busy season and responsibility. But through my experiences as a temple child, a minister, I have come to see Obon in a much deeper way. Here in the United States, we usually call this service Obon service. And as mentioned by the MC, sometimes in Jodo Shinshu, we call it Kangie, which means the gathering of joy. At first, the name might sound a little surprising because when we think about Obon, we often think about remembering loved ones who have passed away. So why is it called a gathering of joy? In Japan, Obon is commonly understood as the time when our ancestors' spirits return home for a few days before being sent back at the end of the Obon. But Jodo Shinshu takes a slightly different perspective. rather than thinking of Obon as welcoming our ancestors back home, we see it as an opportunity to remember our ancestors with gratitude, and through those connections, to encounter the Buddha Dharma. In other words, we don't simply look back to the past. We recognize that the lives of those who came before us continue to guide us towards the teaching today. The tradition of Obon is often connected to the story of Maudgalyāyana, one of Śākyamuni Buddha's disciples, found in a Ullambana Sutra. Wanting to save his mother from suffering, he sought the Buddha's guidance. Through listening to the Dharma together with the Sangha and following the Buddha's teaching, his mother was liberated. From this story developed the tradition of remembering our parents and ancestors with gratitude. Interestingly, though, there is another theory about the origin of the word urabon. Some scholars suggest that it may simply be a phonetic adaptation of the Sanskrit word udana, meaning rice offerings made to monks, combined with the word bon, meaning a tray or container. So which explanation is correct? To be honest, I can't tell you, but I don't think that's the most important question here. Whether the word comes from the Ullambana Sutra or from Sanskrit term for offerings, the heart of Obon remains the same. It is a time to pause, remember those who came before us, and realize that our lives and our encounter with the Dharma are possible because of countless causes and conditions. I received my Tokudo, or you can call it first ordination, when I was 11 years old. Since then, every summer, my father, my two brothers, and I have helped with Obon by visiting families in our temple district, or our members' homes. Although I haven't been able to help since moving back to the States, my father and brothers continued this tradition. Altogether, we visit nearly 400 families every year. The official Obon period in Japan is from August 13th through 16th, but visiting 400 families in just a few days is simply impossible. So we explained the situation to our members and begin making home visits well before Obon officially begins. If you've experienced a Japanese summer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The heat and humidity are unbelievable. We spend hours walking from one home to another home, conducting service after service. But by the time I get home each day, my robes are completely drenched with sweat, and all of us were absolutely exhausted. So a few summers ago, I finally suggested to my father, why don't we just invite everyone to the temple and we hold one big service for Obon instead of visiting one home, each family's home. And that would save so much time, and we wouldn't have to spend all day walking in the heat. To me, it seemed like a perfectly reasonable idea. But my father immediately said no. And he explained that for many of our members, that home service is the only Buddhist service they attend all year. If we stopped visiting them and simply invited everyone to the temple, many people might never have another opportunity to hear the Dharma. At that time, I remember feeling disappointed. I thought, why are we making things so difficult for ourselves? Looking back now, however, I realized I was only looking at the situation from my own perspective. I was thinking about how hot I was, how tired I was, and how inconvenient it all was. I wasn't thinking about the family waiting for us. For them, the one visit wasn't just another appointment on our schedule. It was their opportunity to gather together in front of their family altar and remember their loved ones and listen to the Dharma together. It took me many years to realize that Obon wasn't simply about ministers visiting homes. It was about creating an opportunity for people to encounter the Dharma. This all happened while I was studying Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu in Japan. Ironically, even though I was spending my days learning about the Dharma at school, I still didn't fully understand the meaning of Obon. But looking back now, I realize Obon gave me much more than I ever recognized at that time. Because I never worked as a resident minister at my home temple, Obon was the one season where I had the opportunity to meet so many of our temple members. I looked forward to seeing familiar faces, listening to their stories, and watching families grow over the years. There was even one family that began taking a picture with me every summer. Looking back at these photos now, I can see all of us getting older together year by year. At that time, I thought my job was simply to visit each home and conduct the service. But for the families waiting for us, it meant something very different. It was time to gather in front of their onaibutsu, remember parents, grandparents, and loved ones who had passed away, and share those memories with one another. For many of them, it was also the only opportunity during the entire year to hear the Dharma. Unlike many temples here in the United States, weekly Sunday service are not a common part of temple life in Japan. Instead, ministers often visit members' homes to conduct services in front of the family altar. So we have a set of members that request a monthly service, and then we go in and visit homes. But most of the members don't, so hence Obon might be the only time for a lot of families to encounter the Buddha Dharma and for us to go and visit their home. There is a passage in the Kyōgyō Shinsho that has taken on much deeper meaning for me over the past year. Shinran Shonin quotes the words, "Those who have been born first guide those who come after, and those who are born later join those who were born before." When I was younger, I thought these words referred only to great Buddhist masters such as Honen Shonin and Shinran Shonin. It is certainly true that Shinran encountered the Nembutsu through Honen Shonin, and that the teaching has been carefully transmitted through generations of teachers in India, China, and Japan before finally reaching us today. But as I reflected on these words during this year's Obon, I realized they also speak to our own lives. I think about my grandfather, who served our family temple for many years before his passing. I think about my father, who patiently taught me the meaning of Obon when I couldn't yet understand it. I think about the many temple members who welcomed me into their homes each summer. All of them, in different ways, have guided me to where I am today. A few days ago, I saw this month's Dharma phrase posted by one of my uncle's temples in Japan. It read, "We live together with the many lives that existed in the past and the new lives that will be born in the future." I thought that phrase expressed the spirit of Obon. None of us really exist independently. Our lives are possible because of countless people who came before us. We know our parents and grandparents. but behind them are generations upon generations of lives that made our own lives possible. The same is true about the Dharma. If those before us had not listened to the teaching and treasured it and shared with the next generation, we would not be sitting here together this morning. Obon reminds us that we're not isolated individuals. We are part of an endless chain of lives and of the Dharma, receiving from those who came before us, and whether we realize it or not, passing something on to those who will come after us. Losing our loved ones is one of the most sorrowful experiences in life. Yet, it is also through their lives and through the lives of countless ancestors that we have the opportunity to encounter the Dharma and appreciate the precious connections that continue across past and present. Obon reminds us to cherish those who came before us with gratitude. Their lives continue to guide us, not only through the memories they left behind, but also through the Dharma that has been passed down from generations to generation. At the same time, Obon reminds me of something else. One day, we too will become someone who is remembered. Today, we have the precious opportunity to remember others with gratitude, to receive the Dharma they have passed on to us, and to consider what we ourselves will pass on those who come after us. Looking back now, I finally understand what my father meant all these years ago. Whether in Japan or here in the United States, there are many people for whom Obon is the only time each year they come to the temple or have the opportunity to encounter the Dharma. There is nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it reminds us how meaningful this season truly is. Obon has a unique way of bringing people together. We gather to remember those who come before us, to connect with family and friends, and maybe, without even realizing it, to encounter the Dharma once again. That is why my father believed it was so important to continue visiting each family. Thank you for allowing me to share this morning with all of you. I hope that this Obon season becomes a meaningful opportunity for each of us to remember those who came before us, to appreciate the Dharma that has reached us, and to rejoice in the connections that bring us together. Thank you.